So I got one, and I didn't have to run away from a boulder to acquire this sexy little thing. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video, yes, the Shure SM7B. I am super excited about this video. I'm super excited to talk about this excellent microphone, and I was on the fence about getting this thing. And to be honest, at first, I thought it was a microphone that really just everyone used. Or quote-unquote everyone used, not everyone. But I didn't think it was living up to the hype. So without me babbling on, let's talk about this sexy thing and show you how I was really wrong about this microphone. My first impressions on it is it's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. To be honest, when I first got it, I'm like, this is a decent chunky microphone. I didn't expect it to be this big. And it was really nice to feel that hefty kind of feel for a microphone. Like I've told you before, the Rode Pod mic and the PD70 are hefty microphones. Now, they're not in the same league as the Shure SM7B, but they are definitely hefty microphones, and they definitely can handle a lot of moving around, and you're not worried about them getting damaged in any way. Same thing with the Shure SM7B. Nice streamlined black design, and the foam windscreen runs in conjunction with everything very seamless and very nice. Now, there is another foam windscreen that comes with it, which I will put on periodically through this video, and we'll test all that stuff with the plosives and everything. But for the most part, I love this microphone. I really can't say anything bad about it as far as the build and all around. So I'm really just going to gloat about this thing a lot in this video. So better be ready for that. So yeah, that's the build. That is just incredible. It's built so well. I think it's the best build microphone that I've ever bought. And that is saying a lot because I love my 416. All right, so now that we've gone over the build of the Shure SM7B, let's talk about the innards, what makes it tick, and everything inside in a section I call Techy Talk. And of course, as always in Techy Talk, here is a graphic of all the stuff that goes into it, every bit of information that the manual has to offer us. And then of course, I will talk about what stands out for me and what is the more important things. And of course, as always in Techy Talk, we're going to talk about the frequency response curve last. So the first thing that really stands out as far as the tech inside is concerned is, of course, the low gain output, meaning that it takes a lot of gain from your preamps and your recorder to make this thing audible and be able to hear it. And that is a good thing because, at least in this case, it is a quiet microphone, but also is quiet in the sense that you can boost it up without having extra hiss or extra noise all around from external sources. It does reject noise very well. This is a microphone that you want to be right up on. You don't want to be backing up and using it from a distance. It's not a microphone that's going to be used that way. You're going to be using this in a studio, in a booth, and in a broadcast style like I am doing right now. So to be more specific, negative 59 decibels is the output level. The next thing is the switches on the back. You have a bass roll-off or a low cutoff or a high-pass filter, and a mids to high mids boost. So that's to give you a little bit more presence in that high end, or really in the mids to the mid highs. It goes into the highs a little bit, so that's why I say high mids. So I'm looking at the frequency response curve right now, and I'm going to go through the lows, mids, and highs, and we're just going to elaborate on all of it. The 4 patterns are natural, the way the microphone is made, flat, as far as the switches are concerned. You have the bass roll-off on its own. Then you have the high boost on its own. And of course, both of them engaged, in which case you have 4 possible options. So now let's go over the low end and show you how it is with natural curve and with the roll-off. So as you can see here, it has a natural roll-off with the microphone as it is. And I can see that from about 100 to 50, it starts to just roll off naturally, which is nice. It's always good. You know, if you've been here before, you know I like a natural roll off because it helps the tone of the microphone sound as natural as they want it to be. Then as we progress through the low mids, you notice that it dips down ever so slightly below 0 and hits a low point, like a valley, around 400. And of course starts to go up as you go into the mids. Now finally, let's talk about the bass roll-off when it's engaged. And you can see here with the dotted line that it starts to dip off around 300 and then goes all the way down to negative 15 around 50 hertz. So it's a very drastic roll-off, and I would only suggest using this if you got a person, or if you are a person that has a very low voice, like a Barry White kind of voice. So if you got a voice that's kind of low like this, and I have a horrible low voice impression, but if I add in the low thing right here, so I just engaged the low thing, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my low voice, and I'm going to do more tests like this later, and this is really hurting my voice and making me like itchy in the throat, so I'm not going to do this much more. All right, switches back to normal, and we're au naturel, as they say. So those are the lows. Let's move on to the mids. So if you see here around 400, it starts to rise up to 0 decibels again, and it goes pretty flat until you get to 4,000. And that's great. That is nice. It's really great to have a microphone with that flat mid section to give you a smooth, not so muddy sound. Now, as you engage the mid boost, as they call it, it's really a mid to mid high boost, because you see that from 700 to almost 10,000, it starts to affect it in one way or another. So really it's a mid and high boost. It's giving you a presence boost in the highs, and also giving you a presence boost in the mids and the high mids. So it's all inclusive when it comes to the presence boost. So we're going to engage that right now, and I'm going to talk about it. So now we engage that mid boost, as they call it. I know I'm gonna call it a mid boost because it's just easier to say. But of course, you know how I feel about it and how I would name it. And those are your mids with your mid boost with this engaged. And you might be hearing it in my voice a little bit more because I have that nasally kind of voice, because my issues with my nasal passage, and probably have a deviated septum. So that could be something that any of you guys may have to deal with too. So if you've ever had a broken nose or something like that, I've had I broke my nose 3 times. So it's definitely a deviated septum or something similar to that. Now, finally, the highs, and we're going to start off with the natural curve like we did before. And of course, it's very tuned, and it's really specific of how they want you to have this thing sound. And I really enjoy it. I know this microphone has a low presence in it. So now the mid boost is engaged right now, and let's finish up talking about how this affects it and while you're hearing it. And as I said before with the mids, I feel like depending on the source that you're using, and you could say it's about anything, but depending on the source that you're using, meaning your voice or some other thing that you may want to mic up, it could be good for it, it could be bad for it. Just understand the source that you're going to put into it. A good way to do this is use the microphone that you have and understand the curve that it has. Then look at a parametric EQ and see where the levels are peaking and higher than others. After you do that, you have to compare it to the microphone that you're using, because the microphone that you're using is also emphasizing certain things. In an ideal world, the best way to do it is if you found a microphone with a flat curve all around with no alterations, which my Sennheiser MKH416 is fairly flat and would be a good indicator of it. Of course, there is a presence boost in the highs, so it would have to compensate for that. But just so you understand of where your voice may land, or whatever source you're using will land on the frequency response curve, and how it will be affected with this specific frequency response. All right, so we're going to do our off-axis rejection test, and we're going to do it all the frequency responses, meaning all the switches engaged and all that stuff, all the combinations. Throughout the video, I've been talking about 2-3 inches away from the microphone, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on how much I move. And now we're going to back up a bit and see how it sounds. Now we're about 1.5 feet, 2 feet away, and this is what it's going to be sounding like with a flat curve, no switches engaged, and mildly treated room, as I was saying before, and in most of my videos. Stage left on the 90 degree, about 2 feet away, and this is what it's going to sound like with your off-axis rejection, no switches engaged. Stage right, 90 degrees, this is what you're going to hear with your off-axis rejection. Alright, so this is the rear of the microphone, 180 degrees from the cardioid polar pattern, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection about 2 feet away from the rear of the microphone. Low cutoff is on, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection in a mildly treated room in the Rebel Tech studio, as it were. Next up, 90 degrees, 2 feet away now, and this is going to be off-axis rejection with the low cutoff on. 90 degrees opposite side with the low cutoff on, stage right. Mildly treated room, and this is what it's going to sound like in your off-axis rejection. Last for this test with the low cutoff on, 180 degrees, this is going to be your off-axis rejection test. About 2 feet away, this is going to sound like with your mid-boost on. Stage left, 90 degrees, mid-boost is on, this is what it's going to sound like with your off-axis rejection. Stage right, off-axis rejection with the mid-boost on. Lastly, 2 feet away from the rear of the microphone. Hopefully you don't hear me too much, because that would be nice. Both switches are on, 2 feet away. This is going to sound like, and I'm running out of things to say because I've said this, done this test so many times. Stage left, mildly treated room. This is going to sound like with your off-axis rejection with both switches on, mid-boost and low cutoff. Last time on the right side, or stage right I should say, mid-boost on, low cutoff on, both switches on. Now 2 feet away, finally, last, and I'm tired of talking right now. This is going to be your off-axis rejection, 180 degrees. All right, that's enough with this test. Let's go into the booth and see how this thing sounds. I'm very excited to see how this would be as a voiceover microphone. I really enjoy the sound of this. It really does sound really good. All right, so we're in the booth right now, obviously. And what we are doing in here is experiencing how this microphone would be as a voiceover microphone. So if you're doing this professionally, this could be an option for you. Now, with this microphone specifically, I think for a voiceover person, you would be looking for something very specific, like a certain tone that you're going for your voice, or if this microphone lends well to your voice. Of course, if you're trying to get more natural sound, you want a flatter curve all around, like the 416 by Sennheiser. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to get this out of the way because I'm going to forget if I don't, is a plosive test. So, pop test. Much better. Oh my God, that's non-existent. Oh, that's excellent. Oh my God. Night and day. This one and this one, night and day comparisons. So let's talk a little bit without the windscreens now. So what I'm noticing here, as far as the natural tone is concerned, I like it a little less without the windscreen. Just my personal preference, just how I feel. It could be me listening live, and I might think differently when I listen to it in post, but we'll see what happens. So now that we have the windscreens off, let's actually do a test. We're going to do tests now with low cutoff on, just the low cutoff, just the mid boost, and then both of them, because obviously you've heard it throughout the time that I've been talking with natural flat curve. We're going to do both. So I just turned on the low cutoff, and this is what it's going to sound like. You notice that there is less spacey tones and a little bit more airy in the high end. I like the low end sound natural to this microphone, and I'd rather with this microphone tweak it myself and give it some love on the back end myself. Certain people, certain applications could lend well to those switches, but for me personally, that's how I feel. So we're going to switch off the low cutoff and put on the mid boost. All right, so the mid boost is on and the low cutoff is off. So you're getting that emphasis in that range we were speaking about before, and the mids, high mids, and in some of the highs, you get those presence boosts as well. This isn't too egregious. I actually enjoy it. It's not too bad. And of course, now that the windscreen's off, it's really emphasizing those tones. So if it lends well to your voice, me a little bit. But as I was saying, I'd rather do it in post because I really love the natural tone of this microphone. All right, so both switches are on. Low cutoff and mid boost are on. This is what it's going to sound like with my voice, of course, because that's the only voice you're going to get in this. Maybe one day I'll revisit these microphones with other people and other sources or whatever. This is what it's going to be natural with this big windscreen on, and now we're going to do the low cutoff. All right, so the low cutoff is on, and of course you notice that the low frequencies are starting to sound a little more thin, and the bass in my voice is a little less bassy. So, of course, depending on what you're going to be using, this is what it's going to sound like. If you have a person has a nasally voice, as I was saying before, this is going to be a good representation of what you might deal with. It's just something that I deal with, so... certain microphones lend well to certain people, and this microphone, specifically me, it's a flat curve that I enjoy, and I like that on my voice. All right, so mid boost is on, and wow, you really notice the emphasis in that high mids, not necessarily the mids. It's not too muddy. It's got a hint of mud, just a hint of it with my voice, and you got that emphasis and those breaths are emphasized. All right, so low cutoff and the mid boost is on. Not a big fan of that. It sounds very old school radio-y to me. A lot of mids, and it makes sense because the mids are boosted and the lows are gone. Well, not gone, but they're less emphasized. I'm not a big fan of this. Maybe to someone, maybe to some type of source that might lend well to this, where... I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. Just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think. All right, we got the regular windscreen on right now, and I like the way this one sounds because it's a good combination of treble, bass, and gives you just a nice, well-rounded sound. With the big one, the Mama Gigante, it's nice. And it rejects a lot of plosives. It's excellent at rejecting plosives, but I feel like it takes the cons outweigh the pros when using it because I feel like you're losing too many tones in the high end and you're not getting that presence boost as much. So that's just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Let's engage that low cutoff and see what you think with the regular windscreen on. All right, so the low cutoff is on, and obviously you notice that the low end is cut off. Obviously, duh. So it's going to sound like regular windscreen, and it's going to a. I keep saying it. I like it better with the natural curve. This microphone is pretty damn perfect with my voice, at least, with just a natural curve. Of course, I could EQ it a little bit. I would test it, and I will do a video in the future how I would EQ this to my voice, but I don't know what it is. I just really love it natural. It's just my opinion. It really is nice natural. All right, so the I like that. Nice. Listen to that. Okay, so I'm trying not to gloat too much so you could actually hear what I'm saying. Um, so you're noticing that, that emphasis. Yeah, I like that. It gives more tone in that, like, detail of my voice. And, sorry. So I really with just that, I like that. I really do. It's a nice tone. And it's strange because I did those tests with the other ones and I wasn't a huge fan of it. But now I like it. It's just the way that this windscreen is rejecting some frequencies and the combination of the mid boost. It's not terrible. I actually like it. I don't like it more than the flat curve, but I like it. It's probably number 2 as far as tones that I've heard so far in the booth. All right, so we're getting to that. Both switches are on, so we're getting to that old radio sound again. It's not as bad as it was before with the big windscreen, but you're getting a little bit of that muddiness coming off. And I say this with my voice and the source that I'm giving it right now. Yeah, enough babbling. Let's test this thing in the untreated room. All right, so we're in the untreated room, my old bedroom, as some of you may know. And this is how this microphone's going to react with a room that's certainly less treated. There's a lot of stuff in the room, so that does help when dealing with reflections off the walls. But we still have a drywall ceiling, some drywall on the walls, some glass with the windows, and the TV behind me. So there are still things that are reflective. Also a wood floor underneath me, but there is a area rug, so keep that in mind when you're considering this microphone and also comparing it to your own situation. So throughout this time I've been talking to you, I have been using this microphone au naturel, the way I like it. And what we're going to do is we're going to engage the switches. So now that the low cutoff is engaged, you probably notice, obviously, the lower end is less prominent in the audio that you're hearing. If you're a person with a really low voice and you're not really a fan of how it sounds, of course you could do all this in post, but you could do it on this microphone. And as we said before, I told you how the frequency response curve is and where things land when you engage the low cutoff. All right, so now that the mid boost is on, you probably noticed that I think some of the reflections off the walls and maybe even some echo could be more prominent because of where those boosts are located on this microphone. I could be wrong. I only did a little bit of a test right before this, and I didn't really notice it too much. And of course, I'm listening to it live, and I didn't listen to it in post. So you guys let me know what you think of how this mid boost is in an untreated room. Now, lastly, for your audio test in the untreated room, we have both the switches on, low cutoff, and the mid boost, a mid to high boost, really, to be honest. I think they do that because I feel that it's simple. It's basically the old saying, keep it simple, stupid. So, now that we did our tone test that we have, we're going to do a noise test. So basically, I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. And I'm going to do a little bit of time with all the configurations that I was presenting to you right now in this room. All right, so there you go. There's your noise test, your silence test, and you had some hammering going on, maybe across the street or whatever. I can't see how far it is, but it's noticeable in this room, at least to my ears. I don't know about to the microphone. And to the rumbling of the air conditioners, maybe, maybe not. There are two going off, one right around the corner and one down the hall. So keep these things in mind when you're using this microphone and compare it to the situation that you're in. Now the last thing we're going to do is an off-axis rejection test with all the configurations like we did in the studio. So the first thing we're going to do is natural. Alright, so I am about 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from the Shure SM7B, 90 degrees on stage right. And this is going to be your off-axis rejection test with a natural curve, no switches engaged. Next up, 90 degrees, stage left, Shure SM7B test, no switches engaged, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection. Here's your 180 degree, 2 feet away from the rear of the microphone, not necessarily the capsule. So this is going to be your off-axis rejection. Next up, 90 degrees, back on stage right with the low cutoff engaged, as you see in the top corner. Back on stage left, 2 feet away, untreated room, low cutoff engaged. This is going to be your off-axis rejection test. Alright, 180 degree test, low cutoff on untreated room. This is going to be how your off-axis rejection is right from behind the microphone. Once again, on stage right, mid boost is on untreated room, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection about 2 feet away from the Shure SM7B. Back on stage left, mid boost engaged, untreated room, and this is how your off-axis rejection test will sound. Lastly, with the mid boost only on, this is your off-axis rejection, 180 degrees, about 2 feet away from the rear of the microphone. Alright, last one. Untreated room, both switches are on, mid boost and low cutoff, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection, stage right, and 90 degrees, and we're going to go to the other side and do it again. Last, stage left test. I'm running out of things to say, even though I've been saying the same thing over and over again. Stage left, low cutoff, mid boost on, and this is what your off-axis rejection is going to sound like. Lastly, this is 180 degree test with both switches on, low cutoff and mid boost, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection, 2 feet away from the rear of the microphone. Alright, so switches are off, and that's your off-axis rejection test for the untreated room. So let's go back down to the studio and recap the Shure SM7B. And that's it. That's the Shure SM7B. I have the natural way that I love the way it sounds on my voice, at least, with no switches engaged, the regular pop filter. It's an amazing microphone. It's a little expensive for a regular person who's looking for a microphone just to make some content, but for the most part, if you're in the market for a microphone between $400 and $500, because you're going to have to spend a little extra money for the Fed head to boost it up a bit, it's totally worth it. It's not worth putting so much stress on your preamps, and just make it easier on yourself. For the extra $100, because you're already spending $400 on it, it's just a part of the price of it. I mean, if you get a camera body, you need a lens that goes along with it. So that's pretty much how it goes. It's the same concept. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below and consider subscribing for more videos that are coming out in the future. Specifically videos that are going to be involved with the Shure SM7B. I'm going up against the pod mic, the ZDM1, the PreSonus PD70, AT4040, and the Sennheiser 416. If you have any other microphones that I've covered that you want me to put it up against, I might put it up against the 2035 as well. I just have plans to do certain ones, and then I'll elaborate further as I go further. And of course, if you have any comments, just ask me down in the comment section of things I may have missed, or things you want me to elaborate on a little bit more. And you can ask me more directly while I stream on the weekends. Every Saturday, trying to do it in the mornings, but just keep an eye out for the thumbnail and the post of when I'm going to go live. I'm going to eventually, hopefully, do Saturday and Sunday, but that's in the future. They're trying to get my schedule figured out. I'm trying to do once a week. I do dot to dot art, and I play some video games. Just hang out, chill, listen to music. That's all. And that's all I got for you today. As always, be safe, be kind, and I'll see you in the next video. Come on, Slapnuts, get in here.
We're doing. I almost got through that without laughing. I was going to say we're doing butt stuff.